The Bengals didn't make a move before Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern trade deadline. And, well, I can't say that we're surprised by this. Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien with allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals talk. And let's be honest, I think most of us thought that there was a fat chance, right, that the Bengals made a move, at least on the outside looking in. They've only made 2 in-season trades in recent memory. Those 2 that Mike Brown have made were the Carson Palmer deal where they shipped him out of town to the Raiders, and the other one, Carlos Dunlap last year, where they traded him to Seattle. And look, while for BJ Finney, by the way, in a draft pick, so they did get a player back in return. And while that was the case, it felt like this year might be different for a few reasons. The first of which, the Bengals are one of 9, 10, I think there's like 12 or 13 teams that had a reasonable amount of cap space to make a trade. They had the 9th most cap space, and they still have the 9th most cap space in the NFL, nearly $10 million. They have the draft assets. They have 7 draft picks in 2022. Could end up being 8, depending on the conditional pick they got in the BJ Hill for Billy Price, or Billy Price for BJ Hill swap with the Giants. And if John Ross plays a decent amount of snaps, I think he needs to play 150 more snaps for the Giants this year, they get a 4th round compensatory selection as well. So they could have as many as 9 draft picks. Okay. And then you couple that cap space, something a lot of teams didn't have, draft picks, something that some teams don't have, and the fact that they were 5-2. And this is the part that gets interesting. And I'm not reporting this, but I'm just wondering if the Bengals had beat the Jets on Sunday, would they have made a move? Because they didn't make a move despite having glaring needs, obvious needs at the interior of their offensive line in edge rusher. Some are going to say cornerback. I don't think the Bengals are as concerned about the cornerback position as the outside, as fans are. And maybe long-term, sure. Is that something they could draft? Absolutely. I think they will draft it in the 2022 draft. That being said, edge rusher, interior offensive line. And it felt like that this year might be different. I wasn't trying to hype you up or anything like that and give you targets. I thought that there was a legitimate chance that they would make a move. And it felt that way. And there was rumblings of it. And I'll leave it there. And then this Jets game happens. And I don't know. It just feels like maybe that was it. Maybe that was a deciding factor. Maybe that was the front office saying, maybe this coaching staff is suspect and we need to see if they are for real. Or maybe it was them saying, is it worth it to give up a future asset for a guy that isn't going to put us over the top? Now, me personally, a 6th round pick very rarely is going to make a huge difference. And if you can find someone that helps protect number 9, or you can find someone that helps get after opposing quarterbacks, you do it. But I will say there's a lot of national personalities out there that have mentioned this. And I'll cite Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer. A lot of teams were reluctant to make moves because of depth and their concerns about depth. And, the fact that it's much like the practice squad, where a lot of teams don't lose their practice squad players and they bring the same guys back, and they don't claim guys after training camp because they trust their evaluations of their guys, people, players they know. And so it is going to be interesting to kind of gauge what they could have done or what they would have done and we're never going to know, had they beat the Jets, right? Because if they beat the Jets, they're 6-2. They're at the top of the AFC, and the Chiefs continue to add. And maybe the Titans, and they lose Derrick Henry. But maybe if the Titans don't lose Derrick Henry, they add a piece at the deadline. And so that's the thing that's interesting. And honestly, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, the guard from Kansas City that was sent to the Jets, like that's a perfect guard that you could have brought in. Yeah, he hasn't played in a while because he opted out. He's a doctor, by the way, and he helped take care of COVID-19 patients on the front lines during the height of the pandemic. But that being said, could he be better than Jackson Carman? Or could he be better than your backup in Trey Hill, your backup right guard? The answer is probably yes. And that's why I thought they were probably going to make a move, and they didn't. And, we'll see. Maybe they got it right. Maybe the negotiations broke down. But I know they had talks. And I know they know their weaknesses better than anyone. They know that interior of their offensive line is, and they know that they could use another edge rusher. And obviously the Joseph Osai injury hurts. So they didn't make a move. It's not shocking, but I am a bit surprised. And up to this point, as I record this, it's 4:41 Eastern time. So we're 41 minutes past the trade deadline. Nothing else is coming down. But, maybe there was a negotiation that broke down late. One name out there that I mentioned in my trade deadline video is DeSean Jackson. And DeShawn Jackson, the Rams released him. Apparently he was okay staying there, but he was okay with also finding a trade partner. It didn't happen. So now he's available. Personally, I would be interested. And here's why I would be interested, because DeSean Jackson is a speedster that can help stretch the field when you get into shootouts like the one you were in the other day. And it sounds stupid and silly to say a shootout with Mike White. That's what you were in. And you might be on one on Sunday against the desperate Browns team. And you might be in one against the Kansas City Chiefs. You might be in one the next time you play the Baltimore Ravens. You might be in one in a lot of these games. And if you are, having another speedster, having someone that you can bring in and on the opposite, literally line him up on the opposite of Jamar Chase. You can throw a screen to and he can take it to the house. Or you can send him on a go route and you can throw it 55 yards and he's going to just go. That's a nice weapon to have. Now, where's his attitude? Where's his mindset? Would he be able to fall in line? Ask T. Higgins about culture. He said he would, welcome anybody in and they'd be ready to go and their team chemistry would be fine. Same thing with Zach Taylor, said the same thing. So I do wonder, he's out there. He's just available. Maybe you make a push for him, and that's your deadline edition, because I do know, and all you got to do is look at the snap counts to realize it. Outside of Auden Tate, and they feel like he's limited. They use him more as a run blocker than they do a receiver anyways, and they won't tell you that, but that's what they've done. So why would you go against what their actions are? They're like a 3-wide receiver team. Auden Tate was out on Sunday, and who else was there? Stanley Morgan played 7 offensive snaps. Mike Thomas played 4 offensive snaps. So maybe DeSean Jackson, Zach Taylor calls Sean McVay and says, all right, what's this guy's issues? What are they? Because maybe you don't want him. Maybe he's got too much of an attitude, too much of an ego, even at this stage at 34 years old. Who knows? Or maybe he's someone who could help. Either way, the Bengals stand pat, rather. Was it a bad thing? Maybe not. It depends on what the negotiations were, what the trade talks were, but that is what it is. And like most teams, the Bengals didn't make a move. By the way, we did not go live on Tuesday. We were going to go live. Our plan was to go live if there was a move post-trade deadline, but we'll hold off on going live for Tuesday. Hopefully go live later in the week, and obviously we'll be back to our normal schedule next week. It's just with the trade deadline, there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I was working, not just Browns-wise or Bengals-wise, but obviously we'll have your Bengals-Browns coverage this week. I'll be back at Paul Brown Stadium on Wednesday. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button, and if you're still here, well, thank you so much for subscribing. 8,200 of you can't be wrong. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.